Today we are talking top 10 fantasy football wide receivers. We are right in the midst of week 2 of the NFL preseason, just a couple weeks away. September 5th could not come any sooner. Let me know how fired up you are for the 2024 NFL and fantasy football season in the comments below. Before we get started, please make sure to go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I don't work for anybody. It's just me, a college kid who loves talking football and loves interacting with you guys. So do me a huge favor and take 2 seconds, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's jump right into my top 10 wide receivers for the 2024 fantasy football season. Real quick disclaimer, these are not going to be your ordinary top 10 wide receiver rankings. These are completely different from what you are going to see among the consensus rankings, among your other popular fantasy football analysts. We do things different around here. We are going to gain an advantage over the rest of the field. We analyze things differently. We look at situations differently. So bear down. Tell me below what you think of these top 10 wide receivers. Starting with number 10 is going to be the new Houston Texan wide receiver, Stefon Diggs. Now we have all sorts of analysts, all sorts of rankings, having Nico Collins way up in round 2 at the 2-3 turn, early round 3. Diggs has fallen to the 4th round. We got Tank Dell coming right off in the 5th round. Let's just take a quick step back. It is virtually impossible to have 3 wide receivers on the same team finish in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th or 5th round. And that is where the consensus rankings have these Houston Texans wide receivers right now. It's impossible. It's not going to happen. Stefon Diggs has been a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL for the last 7 years now. He is an elite talent, and people are getting way too caught up in the back half of the season last year when his connection with Josh Allen was dwindling and falling off a cliff. Stefon Diggs is still an alpha wide receiver, and he is joining an elite offense that is going to throw the ball as much as any team in the NFL and is going to score as much as any team in the NFL with one of the best deep ball quarterbacks in the NFL. It is a great situation for the Houston Texans' new wide receiver, Stefon Diggs, because people are sleeping so much on him. Nico Collins was a nobody prior to the second half of last season. A nobody. And that's because everything broke right. Dell got hurt, and people still are putting Dell and Collins way too high in the rankings. Stefon Diggs will be the wide receiver 1 in this offense. There is no doubt about it. Let me know what you think of the Texans wide receiver core in the comments below. Let's jump on over to my wide receiver number 9, and that is Puka Nacua, a guy who was much higher in my rankings prior to this preseason injury. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Red flag number 1 is, of course, that preseason injury. But number 2 is going to be Cooper Kupp being on that offense as well. Supposedly he is fully healthy. I'm not buying it. I think the age and the injury concern of Cooper Kupp is going to keep him from being that elite talent that he was in that 2021-2022 season, I believe it was. Puka Nacua is the guy, and he is going to be on a pass-heavy offense, a high-powered offense, a solid quarterback in Matthew Stafford, who showed he has an excellent connection with Puka Nacua last season. If it weren't for that preseason injury, I would have Puka inside the top 5, but because of that preseason injury, he has bumped himself down to the number 9 spot. Wide receiver number 8, the rookie phenom, Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's talk about a few of the red flags before we talk about the great things that Marvin has going for him on this Cardinals offense. Number 1 is I believe it's going to be a run-first offense with Kyler Murray, who can scamper around the field, with James Conner. They just drafted Trey Benson. They are clearly showing that they want to run the ball as their first option. That is a downside. That is a negative for Marvin Harrison Jr., Number 2, is Kyler Murray really that good? Has Kyler Murray really proven to you guys that he's a great quarterback? He hasn't shown anything to me that he is someone that we should really be excited to have throwing to our wide receiver 1, who we take at the 1-2 turn in our drafts. I'm not all that much of a believer in Kyler Murray, and I don't believe he can stay on the field. And if the trend continues of him getting injured, I have no faith in the Cardinals' backup quarterback being able to supply a wide receiver 1 in Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, of course, he is going to be an absolute alpha on this offense. He is going to be a target hog. He is the only wide receiver that they have. He's going to get freaking fed the ball on offense by Kyler Murray. He also is a superior talent to Trey McBride. I am not a Trey McBride believer. He is going to get an unbelievable amount of volume, you guys. Arguably the most volume by any receiver in the NFL as a rookie. He obviously has youth upside. He's hungry. This is his first year. You know that these rookies are just dying to get out and perform on the field in the NFL. Marvin is a great option early in that second round if you choose to go wide receiver or running back for that matter. I believe he's a safe option at the wide receiver position, and that's why he's my wide receiver 8. Number 7, a little bit lower than consensus, is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let's go ahead and discuss a few of the negatives and red flags for St. Brown. Number 1 is he is not the go-to offensive option, and I will say it again. Gibbs is a better football player than St. Brown, and Laporta is a better red zone target than St. Brown. So essentially, no matter where they're at on the field, St. Brown is never going to be that go-to guy for them. If they're near the goal line, it's going to be Montgomery or Gibbs on the goal line, and Laporta if they're throwing through the air. If they're obviously running the ball when they're way ahead in the second half of games, it's going to be the 2 running backs. We know that he's going to do damage within the 20s. We know that he's going to be a PPR machine, but because he is not that alpha wide receiver, St. Brown is someone that I am not willing to spend a top 5 draft pick on this season. Obviously, they're going to be a very electric offense. Goff obviously has a great connection with St. Brown. He's never had too many issues with injuries. He's still young, so there's a lot going for St. Brown, but I just don't see that wide receiver top 3 upside for him this season. Number 6 is going to be Garrett Wilson. Let's go ahead and go through a few of the red flags yet again. Number 1, I believe this is going to be a run-heavy offense, dominated by Breece the Beast Hall. Breece Hall is an excellent option in the first round. I would much rather have Breece Hall early in your drafts compared to Garrett Wilson. And please do not double up on Jets players. You are just completely nerfing your upside. If you're going to take a Jets player in the first round, let it be Breece Hall. But the run-heavy offense is going to be a concern for me with Garrett Wilson. Number 2, as we just talked about, Breece is the focal point of that offense, not Garrett Wilson. Number 3, we have no clue what to expect from Aaron Rodgers. We don't know if he'll be the Hall of Fame quarterback that he was 5-10 years ago. We don't know if he'll be half of that. He could be terrible for all we know. But we do know that Aaron Rodgers has always supplied excellent wide receiver ones over the course of his career. So that is something that is definitely going for Garrett Wilson. It's going to be a solid offense. I expect Garrett Wilson to finish right around his current ADP, and he is an extremely safe pick at the end of the first round. We've made it through our 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6 wide receivers. Let me know what you think of these guys in the comments below. Obviously, there are a few guys in the top 5 that you are not going to be expecting, and I promise you, unless you've seen my wide receiver rankings already, you are going to be shocked by the top 5 wide receiver rankings. So make sure to stick around. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe on this video. As I said prior, I don't work for anybody, so the only way that you guys can help me is by leaving a like and clicking that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. Let's go ahead and jump into the top 5 wide receivers. Starting with number 5, Ja'Marr Chase. He is obviously one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. He has a connection with Joe Burrow. They are going to be an extremely pass-heavy offense. Their running backs are not very good. We have seen him dominate in the games that he is playing, but that's the issue, is that he is not always playing. We see him continue to struggle with injuries and continue to struggle to stay on the field. We see Burrow continue to struggle to stay on the field. So are these two guys finally going to be able to stay on the field together and get it done the way that we know they can? I'll believe it when I see it, but as of now, they have not proven that they can be relied upon over the course of a season. Another red flag that we should discuss, I'm not too worried about it, but it's T. Higgins. We have seen T. Higgins be an effective wide receiver 1 when Ja'Marr Chase is not playing. He obviously takes a hit in his production when Chase is on the field, but he's not a complete nobody. He's one of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL, and he will continue to take away production from Chase when they are both on the field. I wouldn't spend a top 5 wide receiver pick or a top 5 pick on Chase at all. I would go ahead and take him later, maybe at the 10 spot, but a top 5 pick is way too expensive for me to take Ja'Marr Chase, given how inconsistent he is at staying on the field. My wide receiver number 4 is going to be Tyreek Hill. Yes, I know you're sitting there. How in the world are there 3 guys ahead of Tyreek Hill? And I guarantee you 2 of them are not who you expect. So make sure to stick around. But number 4 is Tyreek Hill. just like we talked about with Ja'Marr Chase, we need to be a bit concerned with the wide receiver 2 production in Jalen Waddle. Yes, I am well aware that Tyreek Hill is arguably the most unguardable wide receiver in the NFL, but Waddle is one of the best wide receiver 2s. We have seen from time to time that production get smoothed out over all of the offensive weapons with Achane, with Mostert, with the new rookie Jalen Wright, with Jalen Waddle, with Tyreek Hill. I am not saying that he is not superior to all of those other weapons, but I am saying there are other weapons, and we will see continually how many touchdowns get spread out over the course of the Dolphins offense. Yes, they are going to be electric. Yes, Tua has found the connection with Tyreek Hill, but it's just a bit concerning how many weapons there are on this Dolphins offense, and that is enough for me to stay away from Tyreek Hill. Along with the age concern, I think he is maybe the oldest guy on this list. He is going to slow down, and I know that's something crazy to say for a guy nicknamed Cheetah, but he is going to slow down this season. I can guarantee it. Number 3, A.J. Brown, arguably one of my favorite picks to have in the first round because it is almost guaranteed that you can get him if you want to go wide receiver in the middle section of that first round and the end of the first round. You can almost always get A.J. Brown if you want to draft him. Let's go ahead and discuss the one and only negative I have with A.J. Brown, and that is, again, that wide receiver 2 production in Devonta Smith. No, I do not believe Smith is close to the talent that A.J. Brown is, nor the physical specimen, nor the talent at the wide receiver level. I believe A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts showed continually last year that Brown is the true alpha wide receiver 1 on this offense. And that is the only concern that I have with A.J. Brown. He has shown that he is going to be durable and stay on the field. He is still young. He is still hungry. The Eagles need a bounce back season after last season when they completely crapped the bed the last 6 games of the season. Brown is going to be elite. He is an alpha wide receiver on an elite offense that is going to air the ball out a lot. I understand Saquon was traded or signed by the Philadelphia Eagles. That is not going to affect A.J. Brown's production. Matter of fact, it may even open up even more space over the field when they have to now worry about an elite running back in Saquon Barkley. Please do not hesitate to take A.J. Brown over some of these big names receivers like Tyreek Hill and Ja'Marr Chase and the other St. Brown. A.J. Brown is our number 3 receiver. Number 2, here is the wild card. You're like, Gage, where is Justin Jefferson? Why has he not been said to this point? Maybe he's at this number 2 spot? Nope. Number 2 wide receiver on our list is the absolute mic drop in Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints. Yes, Chris Olave. Think about the red flags for Chris Olave. It's Derek Carr, and that's all. He is an absolute alpha wide receiver. There is no one even remotely close to as good of a wide receiver as Chris Olave on this offense. I believe he is going to be the most dominant target hog in the NFL this season. The gap between Chris Olave and the wide receiver 2 in Rashid Shaheed is unbelievably far apart. Olave is such a superior talent to any wide receiver, and I believe he is such a superior talent to Alvin Kamara as well. And it was so frowned upon how much Derek Carr checked the ball down to Kamara last season that Olave is going to get fed the ball this season. Derek Carr has to throw the ball past the line of scrimmage more than 20 times a game this season. He has to. He cannot be a check down merchant. We know that the Saints are going to be behind in games. Olave is going to get fed the ball so freaking much, possession after possession, when they're trailing, when they're ahead, when they're tied. It's not going to matter because he is the only electric offensive weapon that the New Orleans Saints have. He's still young. He is durable. He has upside. He's averaged like 140 targets last season, and he had like 1,200 yards. How often can you get a wide receiver who's getting drafted outside of the top 10, who's getting 140 targets and 1,200 yards? There is nobody, and he's bound to score more touchdowns this season. I think he's had 4 or 5. That has to go up this season, you guys. Chris Olave is my most drafted player this season, and he should be a guy that you guys are all targeting in your drafts this season. If you guys are still watching to this point, you obviously probably think I'm crazy. go ahead and drop a hashtag mic drop in the comments below to see who has made it 15 minutes into this video. Let's go ahead and get to the number one wide receiver option. This one is going to be no surprise to anyone. CeeDee Lamb of the Dallas Cowboys. The only red flag that CeeDee Lamb has just emerged in the last week or two, and that is the contract situation and the beef going on with Jerry Jones. CeeDee Lamb is going to be in one of the most pass-heavy offenses in the NFL, top 3 for sure. He is a superior talent to anyone else, as we previously stated with Chris Olave. There is 0 wide receiver 2. Ferguson is going to be the number 2 option on this offense, and I'm not ripping into Ferguson as a talent because I am one of his biggest believers for fantasy value this season. He is my tight end 3 in fantasy this season. But CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson are just on 2 planets that are so far away from each other. CeeDee Lamb is going to get fed the ball like nobody else. He is going to be right up there with the most targeted and highest reception count of any receiver in the NFL. He is going to get touchdown production. We have seen the connection with him and Dak all season long last season, especially in the back half when they elected to throw the ball more than any other team in the NFL. They got rid of Tony Pollard and signed a washed-up Zeke Elliott, showing even more of the reason why they're going to air the ball out. CeeDee is going to be on a top 5 offense with a top 5 quarterback in my eyes, with a top 5 pass-heavy offense, and he is the superior talent with nobody else near him. It's a no-brainer. Obviously, we got to be worried and concerned about that contract situation, but if that settles, he is the wide receiver 1, no doubt. We made it through the top 10. Let's go ahead and talk about 2 of the guys who I do not have ranked inside my top 10 that the consensus rankings do. Number 1, of course, is Justin Jefferson. 2 of the red flags, no-brainer, is the quarterback situation. Now, I understand you guys are all saying that Justin Jefferson is quarterback-proof. I am a Vikings fan. I am well aware that Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL, and I'm well aware that he averaged 1 more point without Kirk Cousins last year than with Kirk Cousins. But that does not change the fact that this is an entire season without Kirk Cousins. The sample size last year was not enough. And it was also entirely different because of the guys surrounding Kirk Cousins or surrounding Justin Jefferson. This season, they're probably not going to have TJ Hawkinson for maybe a third of the season. They're not going to have Jordan Addison for potentially a third to half the season due to suspension. They're not going to have who am I thinking of? Anyone. Who cares? Justin Jefferson is literally the only option on this offense. And I know that I've used that as a positive previously with other guys such as Chris Olave and CeeDee Lamb. But that's when they had Alvin Kamara. That's when they had Jake Ferguson. That's when they had Dak Prescott as guys who can actually move the ball without one player. Justin Jefferson is the only good guy on this offense. I understand they have Aaron Jones now. Aaron Jones is not a good football player. He's not. He can't stay healthy. He is lacking production. He used to be explosive, but he's not anymore. The Vikings' offensive line is not very good. Justin Jefferson is not going to produce without a good quarterback this season, and he is going to get double-teamed every single game for the entire game. They are going to make the Vikings beat them with some nobody. I guarantee it. Jefferson is the worst pick in the first round of your fantasy drafts. Do not draft Justin Jefferson. Along with the injury concern, Jefferson's already came out and said he is extremely worried about his health and about his physical state for this NFL season. The last thing you want to do in a top 5 pick in the first round of your fantasy drafts, the guy who needs to be the anchor of your fantasy draft, is to have him worried about if he's even going to be physically able to stay healthy. That's the last thing you want. You want safety in the first round, and Jefferson is the opposite of that. The last guy that we're going to talk about here is Davante Adams. It goes without saying, he's going to be a volume vulture. He is, again, the only option on that Raiders offense when it comes to wide receivers. But the quarterback play is going to be so unbelievably bad with Aiden O'Connell or with Gardner Minshew. They are going to double-team Davante Adams. He's also slowing down. He's getting extremely old. He's also dealing with injury stuff. Get me away from the Raiders offense and Davante Adams. It is a no-brainer. You do not want to draft guys that are far beyond their peak and their prime. Draft the guys who are young and hungry and explosive and are going to be on good offenses. Please just don't draft a washed-up Davante Adams in the top 10 wide receivers. All right. We talked through our top 10. We talked about two guys who we don't have in our top 10. We're well over 20 minutes here now, so let's wrap this video up. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these top 10 rankings. I told you it's going to be bold. I told you it's going to be crazy. I'm so appreciative if you guys made it this far. Please do me one last favor. Leave a like. Subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. We got one final episode coming in tomorrow, and it is my top 10 tight ends. I'm repping the Travis Kelce jersey here. I had my David Njoku jersey as my MVP for fantasy football last season, who we were preaching game after game, week after week, and he pulled through in the fantasy football playoffs. So stick around, subscribe for that tight end episode as well. Go back and check my running back and quarterback episodes the last couple days, and that's all I got. Enjoy preseason week 2. Enjoy the weekend. We are right around the corner from Fantasy Football 2024. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Love all you guys. God bless.